Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Karuna. It is so lovely to have you here today. Relationships. They can be challenging, whether it be friendships, relationships with a partner, or even your relationship to yourself. It can be pretty challenging sometimes. Today we'll consider the #1 reason for difficulty in relationships and also what we can do to get a wide angle lens so that we don't laser point focus and burn the other person up, or ourselves for that matter. I'm going to use a very sophisticated teaching tool, okay? And I'm doing it to impress you, no doubt. This teaching tool is a blank piece of paper. Oh my goodness. Today, this blank piece of paper is going to be the field of all potential. This piece of paper is the field of your potential. Consciousness, the Buddha nature, and today for our purposes in this video, we'll call it presence. When we go through the door of the universal to the individual, we start to build up psychological memories, and we call those psychological memories forward into the present moment. And those psychological memories build up over time, so we see the present moment through psychological memories rather than this field of full potential. Add to this conditioning, cultural conditioning, family conditioning, economic conditioning. Add conditioning on top of this, and our vision in the moment can be pretty cloudy. We, dear humans, go along gathering our individuality, gathering our somebodyness. And then pretty soon, we set up camp in this field of potential. For our purposes today, we're going to set up camp between two friends. We'll call them H squared, Hilda and Harry. And I'm only using those names because I don't think I know anyone named Hilda and Harry. So Hilda goes along developing her individuality and developing her somebodyness and setting up her camp in one valley. We'll call it Camp Hilda. And dear Harry's been doing the same all of his life, and he sets up camp in Camp Harry. For the most part, Hilda and Harry are grooving along, they're walking along the footpaths, they're enjoying each other. Inevitably, a situation arises and they don't agree. It becomes more contentious and even fractious. Hilda is solidly in her camp, Harry's solidly in his camp, and their psychological memories are going back and forth. So the little girl hurts are meeting the little boy hurts, and they're going back and forth with their psychological memories and their little boy and their little girl hurts. And if you've ever been in one of these scenarios, and I imagine you have, you've pretty much discovered it's going to go nowhere. It becomes a right-wrong scenario. Whenever I'm in a group of friends and I can feel the conversation moving to the right-wrong scenario, I try to lighten the situation and say, oh, it's always so helpful to know who's right and who's wrong. And then there's often a pause and we'll look at each other and laugh. So you can see now how so much is filtered and shared verbally, but also in our body language when people take up camp in disagreements. Some people will become so heavily identified with their valley and their past psychological memories that they become domineering, manipulative, and abusive. And they're not even willing to peek over to see what's in the other valley. Let's use a current example of politics. When we recognize that another person doesn't threaten our code of ethics, another person doesn't threaten our values, it creates much more space in which to relate to another person who may not share the same views as we do. When we recognize that these values are inherent to us, that no one can take them away, then there's much more room to hear another person speak about the political views in their valley. It doesn't threaten us, and it certainly doesn't mean that we don't take action, but can we sit down and be curious, have a beginner's mind, and understand another person without having it threaten our inherent value? So many great traditions invite us to explore presence, to explore our Buddha nature. We do that by taking this beautiful inner journey. There's a great teacher who passed years ago, and he did so much to bring wisdom to the West. His name was Paramahamsa Yogananda, At one time, a celebrity came to one of his events. And after the event, this celebrity went up to Paramahansa Yogananda. And the celebrity said to him, I drink too much, I do drugs, I live a very fast life, I'm having sex with a lot of people, can I come to your events? Paramahansa Yogananda said to him, well, of course you can come to my events. And don't be surprised after a period of time if you don't want to smoke quite as much, if you don't want to do as many drugs, if you don't want to have sex with that many people. What Paramahansa Yogananda was talking about was come here time and time again. When we come to the space of our full potential, to our Buddha nature, to presence, these psychological memories that were placed upon us, they start to loosen. The residue starts to be polished off. And those habits that gripped us so will start to diminish. So how is this going to affect Camp Hilda and Camp Harry? When we are called by these great teachings, we start to align with this presence, with this field of potential. And we start to settle in to the qualities of inclusivity, compassion, and love. Harry becomes less interested in reinforcing his rightness, his somebodyness, and Hilda too becomes less interested in being dominant or being right. A natural curiosity pours forth, and Hilda and Harry will become less offended by each other's views, beliefs. There'll be more space in which Hilda and Harry can meet. The psychological residue will polish off, the cultural conditioning will start to lift, and there's more space to breathe, there's more room, we're more expansive, and we start to value relationship and union and resolution more than individual rightness. What a burden to lift, not only in ourselves, but for a friend or a partner. It takes a lot of energy to carry around rightness. As we unburden ourselves with our investment in being right at all possible costs, there's so much more room, there's so much more space. Relationships improve and a beautiful thing happens. We begin to trust ourselves. We can extend that to another person. When we trust ourselves and we trust our friends, we feel safe, we feel at ease, we settle down into presence. So the next time you take things personally, look around your little valley. Maybe you want to just remind yourself that another person's experience doesn't threaten your own set of values. Or maybe you look around your valley and say, ooh, I'm speaking through my little boy or my little girl hurts. And if that's the case, notice how good it is to release those little boy, those little girl hurts that we fast forward as those psychological memories and settle into our authentic self. I'm sending so much warmth to you today. I hope this video was helpful. Please share your comments below. I'll see you soon.